everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Digital Transformation and the Impact on Medical Staff Services. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Barb Worsler from the Hardenbergh Group, and I'll be the moderator for today's program. Our program today is presented by the Michigan Association Medical Staff Services and sponsored by the Hardenbergh Group. Thank you to Lisa Allen, President of NAMSS, and the Board of NAMSS for partnering with the Hardenbergh Group to provide this education. Before we begin today's program, let's review some of the features of this webinar. Toward the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A option. Please click on that option to ask the presenter a question. Please use the chat function, also located toward the bottom of your screen, to type a question to the moderator or to respond to the presenter's questions during the program. All attendees have been muted, so it's important to utilize the chat and Q&A functionality of this webinar. As time permits, at the end of the program, I will read the submitted questions and ask our presenter to respond. This program is being recorded. If you know someone who was not able to attend today's session, it will be available on the Hardenbergh Group's website approximately 48 hours after the program has concluded. You'll receive a link to the recording via the email address that you used to register for this program. To earn your NAMSS-approved continuing education credit, please complete the post-program survey. A link to the survey will be emailed to you approximately 1 day after the program, and certificates will be emailed approximately 1 week after the completion of the survey. If you're not interested in receiving continuing education credits, we're still interested in your feedback. We'd appreciate you taking time to complete the evaluation as well. Now at this time, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Melissa Walters. Melissa is the Assistant Vice President, Medical Staff Operations for MedStar Health in Columbia, Maryland. Melissa has over 30 years of experience as an MSP, and she likes to help hospitals and healthcare systems cope with an ever-changing industry and regulatory environment as an advocate for patient safety. Melissa has served in a variety of leadership roles within state and national associations and was the president of NAMSS in 2013. Melissa holds a master's degree in health administration and a bachelor's degree in justice studies. And she's been a CPCS and CPMSM for a number of years and was actually inducted as a NAMSS fellow in September of 2018. Melissa, we are so excited to have you present today, and we're so grateful for you taking your time to talk with all of us. So at this time, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
Well, thanks, Barb. And you know, the title of the presentation is Digital Transformation and the Impact on Medical Staff Services. So my apologies for us being 2 minutes late in getting started today, because one of the skill sets that we're going to have to talk about, or that we're going to talk about through this, is our ability to function with modern technology. Especially if you're sitting here like I am today and I'm looking at 3 screens trying to figure out which one you guys are going to see, how I'm going to share it, and turn off my email at the same time. So I appreciate you guys staying with us today as we get through the presentation. So I always like to start out with something funny. So here is the comic strip. Are you ready to meet about digital transformation? We can't see your slides. Well, hello, we lived through that just a few minutes ago. Do you need to download, plug in? We're restricted to IE7. Okay, I tried to email the slide deck, but it bounced back. Our limit is 1 megabyte. Well, Barb and I lived through that earlier this week. So we were trying to get the slide deck to one another, and it was like over 25 megabytes. Dropbox or wet transfer. We had that challenge too, trying to get it on Google Docs last night, right, Barb? And then I'm not sure how to present to you. Can you fax it to us? You know, and we are such in that mindset of technology doesn't work, we want to automatically divert to paper. But this is our world right now. And we're all doing virtual meetings. We're trying to go paperless when it comes to credentialing. How are we going to review everything? And if we fax it, you know, are we an e-fax system now or an old-fashioned paper fax? So I thought this comic strip kind of really portrayed where we're at right now in the world that we're living in. So And I always want to start this presentation about where we came from. And if you think about the years that some of us have been in the industry, I just celebrated 30 years. Gosh, so sad last year. I cannot believe that I'm actually been in the profession for 30 years. I love it, have a passion for it, have never been bored a day of my life. But like most of you, I started out as an administrative medical staff secretary. And I like to say, because, you know, freaking miracle worker isn't an official job title. I don't know about you guys, but every day we are creating some type of miracle for either our medical staff leadership, our colleagues, our practitioners, because right now, right, during COVID, we're trying to get people onboarded ASAP, and we may not have everything that we need in order to make that happen. But that's our world, that's what we do. So as we are going through our presentation, we are going to address a few objectives today. One, I hope to inspire you to be able to work collaboratively with colleagues on developing some innovative processes regarding the future of our profession. And if you don't want to work collaboratively with a colleague within your office or within your health system, you can always work collaboratively with me. I like to think outside the box as much as I can. We're going to talk about digital transformation and its impact. I'd love to hear from you guys towards the end of the presentation on some of the challenges that you have faced. And then we're also going to talk about some of the skill sets that we need to become the MSP of tomorrow. So in your role, if you grew up in this type of profession, you feel like you're many things. And I can't list all of those many things, but I can just tell you, in my tenure, I've often felt like I was a mother or a parent of a lot of our practitioners. You know, when I have to go around and say, you know, I'm so sorry, but you know, you can't sit on the counter in the physician's lounge because this is where we serve food, right? Or I have to mitigate between two physicians who are arguing over a parking spot in the doctor's parking. Counselor, therapist, and then a friend of mine would like to throw in there the bartender, because the physicians often come in our offices before COVID, sit across the desk, and they proceed to tell you everything that's going wrong in their life, right? Wonder Woman or Superman, that's the nature of what we do. Crisis management, I don't know that there needs to be any explanation, but all I can tell you is I used to tell my team, don't ever answer the phone at 3:59 on a Friday if you don't plan on staying another hour to solve the problem that's on the other end of that telephone line. I would be the one that would stay and take the hit if the phone rang at 3:59 on a Friday. Miracle worker, we talked about that. Loophole finder, right? We all have bylaws, policies, and procedures. You know, we're asked every day, you know, is there any way you can make this happen? Just today's Wednesday, just yesterday, I got an email that says, hey, we want to recruit this physician, and we just found out he doesn't qualify for a license in Maryland because he only completed 1 year of training and not 2. And since he's a foreign medical grad, is there any way at all we can get him into our health system? Any way that we can work magic, right? A miracle worker, and get him a license in the state of Maryland? And then troublemaker. I throw this one in because one of my favorite CFOs, when I used to work in Ohio, anytime I walked into administration, he said, here comes trouble. But he knew that if I came to him with a problem, I also had a solution. But I was also the person that would come to them and say, and bring a sign from the cafeteria up to administration to say, oh, hi, I see we're advertising that, you know, Dr. X is going to be doing a Da Vinci robot. Guess what? Dr. X isn't privileged to do so. And I would run across cases like that all the time, and I would always go into administration and say, this can't happen until they're appropriately credentialed. But this was our world. This is our world. And for those of you who have not gone paperless, this might be what your world looked like or continues to look, dealing with all of this paper. I can tell you that in my world right now at MedStar Health, we are in the process of taking our team from paper to paperless, and we are looking at all that paper needing now to be scanned into a document management system so that we have access to our paper files across the whole health system. So it's important to me as we look at the future of the profession and how we're going to move forward to really talk about some of the principles that we're going to need to make this transition. I think these principles can also be considered a skill set. And I pull these from NAMSS, even though in any type of leadership resource, you can develop your own leadership principles. And for NAMSS, we really focused on 4 when this was created. And so one of those is the ability to create relationships. And I'm not going to read the slides, but these relationships really talk about, 1, how we work with each other as colleagues, how we work with our partners. And when I say our partners can be within our organizations, within our health systems, or it could be our vendors who have our software, but it's all about that relationship. And it's about relationship with one another. You know, building that relationship. I'm here in Maryland, but I have colleagues that I can call on in Alaska, in California, you know, in Washington. So, you know, you all know that this profession is really all about networking, and this is how we work together to really create and promote strategic development, which is all about strategic thinking, right? You gotta have the ability to see the vision, not only for your organization, but for the profession. When you're doing a plan, you need to be able to think 3 and 5 years out and think about what you want to accomplish and what goal are you going to complete this fiscal year that's going to set you up for next fiscal year. And for like me, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what's going to get me to the end goal in 3 years or to the end goal in 5 years as I'm trying to transition to a paperless environment. It's almost like getting a roadmap. And to accomplish that, you have to have partners, right? It's all about relationship. Do you need to enter into a relationship with the document management company? Or does your software vendor for credentialing offer a document management system? How are you going to work with them to get that implemented? So you need to be thinking big picture and not necessarily get bogged down in the weeds of getting the mission accomplished. Passion and vigor. I say this because if you don't have passion in this profession, the jobs that we perform every day can feel like a burden or a weight on your shoulders and can totally exhaust you. I have had the pleasure of working with some frontline employees just getting into the profession. I always tell them when I interview them, I said, I'm hiring you for the skill set that you have, and I can train you how to do the job. But if you don't like what you're doing in the first 6 months, my recommendation is get out before you get sucked in. Because I would hate for someone to be in this profession, be trained, but not really enjoy what you do. And I will say, I've had an employee in the past who came to me after 6 months and she's like, okay, I don't like it. What are my options? And we helped her connect her skill set with another job within the organization that she enjoyed doing. And then integrity. It's our core values. It's our core values within the profession. It's also our core values here within MedStar Health. And I would assume that most of your organizations, you have some type of integrity, honesty, truthfulness as part of your mission, vision, and values with your organization. and really take those and live those, because what we do in credentialing is all about integrity. It's about honesty, truthfulness. We require our practitioners to be truthful with us. If they don't, there's a consequence to that. Burden of proof is always on the applicant, so we expect them to be honest. And we want our credentials committee and medical executive committees to make the same type of clinical judgment and utilizing their integrity. So a little clip from last year in Philadelphia. You saw the one earlier, but this one says credentialing coordinator only because full-time multitasking ninja is not an actual job title. That's what we feel like. I'm driving from site to site. I'm juggling. You know, I have an auditor calling me needing XYZ. I have a VPMA calling me needing an explanation on this. And then, but this is what we're doing. We are multitasking while we're driving. We're thinking about work while we're home cooking, or we're thinking about work, you know, when we're getting ready in the morning. It's a 24/7, and especially right now during COVID, it's definitely 24/7 as we're dealing with how are we going to redeploy? How are we going to multitask working from home and managing our kids going back to school? With the things that we are juggling every day is mind-blowing. And I thought this was funny. When we talk about a skill set of the future, when I Googled certified provider credentialing specialist, this book came up on logical reasoning, because that's what we are. We are logical, critical thinkers, and that is probably one of the most #1 skill sets that I think we're going to need as we become the MSPs of tomorrow, and we really look at how this profession of ours is going to be transforming. So some of our titles, some of the things that we do every day are displayed here on the slide, from coordinators to analysts to specialists to you know, leaders to consultants. A lot of us are speakers, authors, some of us, you know, even are surveyors. We work for NCQA, and there are some of you that have also served as an expert witness for negligent credentialing cases. So, I mean, the breadth of what we do is, I don't want to use the word mind-blowing again, but it's just all-inclusive. I mean, we are really at the forefront now of our profession, and we're really making changes in how people look at medical staff services and respect medical staff services. And a lot of the people that work in our finance offices are really seeing how we are, you know, the beginning of the patient revenue stream. And you can see that here in the next couple of slides as we look at how the data that we collect on our practitioners impacts everybody within the healthcare system, whether it is our health plans, whether you have a health plan within your association, or if you are delegated with health plans, you know how they look at your data, whether the practitioner is requiring or relying upon you to maintain their data and the information that we have to collect from them at initial and re-credentialing times. You have government and our regulators. They rely on our data when they come in and they survey us. Consumers, our patients, every bit of our data goes out on a health system, a health plan website, whether you call it Find a Doctor or Physician Locator, that information is there, and depending on who you participate with, their quality of care information is also out there and available. So you are not only the gatekeepers of patient safety, you're the gatekeepers of practitioner data. And then when you look at it from this perspective, you're also bringing in big pharma. You're bringing in third-party platforms. You are sending information in both directions. You're receiving it and you're exporting it. And when I was with my previous employer, out of our credentialing database, we had 37 feeds going out of our system, and about half as many of those coming into our system because, you know, we are collecting flu information. We are collecting information regarding their completion of online educational modules, whether it be related to moderate sedation, whether it be related to risk management. So when you think about how your database works, you are the person that owns that data. So they're looking at your practitioner data as a source of truth within your organization. This is what we're doing. And then when you think about some of the things that we do as it relates to risk and quality, how all that overlaps in patient safety. Again, you can look at the slides and you can see a lot of the information that impacts what you are doing. Peer review, patient satisfaction. Most of you, if you work in a hospital system, you bring that information in as part of your OPPE data. Performance, competency, quality of care, quality management, utilization review. Then you look from the risk perspective, claims management, regulatory compliance, ethics, right? Mandatory event reporting. All of that information probably feeds in at one point or another into your OPPE. And if you look in the middle, right there in the dark gray, that is a lot of what we are coordinating, you know, on behalf of our practitioners. And this, I believe, is going to be, again, I'm going to say this one more time. This is what I believe is going to be in the future, where we're going to be focusing a whole lot more of our time versus the day-to-day primary source verification. So when we look at the skill set for today's MSPs, we're looking at, you know, experience, ability, growth, training, knowledge, learning, competence, and even advanced training. This is kind of where we are. Some of us may be still in the early part of learning how to be an MSP, and some of us are, you know, more in the, I'll say, the tenured, more mature role of an MSP. So what are the 5 stages of this digital transformation? Denial, right? We don't need to change. How many of you have experienced that? Then we go through the anger phase. Why is everything changing? If you haven't been there yourself, I'm sure you've dealt with a physician or a physician leader who has been. Bargaining. Okay, so what's the minimum we really have to change to make this work? Then depression, because then you think, oh my God, we need to change, but we're never going to change. And then acceptance. Well, maybe if we just change our CMO. I mean, and this is meant to be funny, but when you think about how some organization changes, sometimes change is actually in, you know, the physical people in order to get a new perspective. So again, another skill set that we're going to have for the future is we're going to have to accept change. And we're going to have to understand that change is a good thing, but most importantly, you want to be a part of that change. So for those of you who grew up like I did in the 80s, and you think about a couple of movies that come to mind, right? As you're thinking about, oh my God, this is where we are. And who would have thought when I was watching a movie called War Games that things like this would actually happen, or a movie like Back to the Future, and you know, they were displaying on the TV at the time, almost like, you know, like we do right now when we do video chats. And now here we are having video chats on our phones with our colleagues, friends, and family members. So I'm going to play a quick clip here.
We're in. It thinks I'm Falcon. Hello.
How can it ask you that?
It'll ask you whatever it's programmed to ask you. You want to hear it talk?
Yeah.
I'll ask it how it feels. I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent.
It's been a long time. Can you explain the removal of your user account on June 23rd, 1973?
They must have told it he died. People sometimes make mistakes.
Yes, they do.
How can I talk?
It's not a real voice. This box just interprets signals from the computer and turns them into sound.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
I think I missed him.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love to. How about global thermonuclear war?
Wouldn't you prefer a good game of chess?
Later, let's play global thermonuclear war.
Fine.
All right.
Which side do you want?
I'll be the Russians.
Please list primary targets.
Who should we nuke first?
Let's see. How about Las Vegas?
Las Vegas. Great. What next? Seattle!
Yeah!
So, for those of you who don't know the movie, and we'll see another clip here later on, but when you think about where we are today versus where that movie was back in, oh gosh, I want to say it said late 70s, but we'll just say early 80s. We're like beyond there. But to think about, there's a couple things I like to think about. One, from being a mother of a 20-year-old, I look at it from the perspective of when it comes to technology, she probably knows 10 times more than I do about how to get things working. So when you look at it from the skill set of our workforce, our younger generation is going to be more embracing of digital transformation than some of us are going to be. And then when you think about what computers are doing now and what technology is allowing us to do, this is the focus of the future of, I feel, my personal opinion, of where our profession is going to go. And you've heard a lot about blockchain technology, may not really understand how it works. I'm not sure I really understand how it works. I still don't understand how the fax machine works. That is a piece of technology that continues to amaze me, how I can image a piece of paper and it populates over on somebody else's machine over, across the country in California or, in another country altogether. Still fascinated by how the fax machine works. But anyway, so what is blockchain? It is an immutable timestamp series record of data that is just distributed and managed by a cluster of computers. So this still continues to amaze me. And I love sitting down and talking with IT people who totally understand how this works. But for me, I like to look at a diagram a little bit like this. And if you have a digital wallet, or again, you have a child or somebody else that you have to send money to via an app like Venmo, right? This is blockchain. And I say, I can substitute Jim and Mary for my daughter and myself. Hey, Mom, I'm at college. I'm out of money. Can you Venmo me? So I go to my Venmo app, send her $25, and within, 5 to 10 seconds, the way this technology works, it goes out, it secures, it understands, okay, my bank is going to her bank. And all of a sudden, within 5-10 seconds, she's got that $25 in her account. And all of this works through blockchain technology because of the validation of owner of the account and recipient of the money and the validation of her account. So this is blockchain. This is how we're moving forward. And when you talk about this as it relates to credentials, which is what we do, we primary source verify, right? We've got an issuer, and I like to think about this, and I'm going to use MedStar Health. So issuer, we have an academic facility called Georgetown University. Georgetown issues degrees to its students, right? The student is the holder of that degree. Me, MedStar Health, CVO, I need to verify that information. So if all of this is held in a verifiable data registry, when I go out and instantaneously query, I'm going to get that information, right? So again, this is blockchain. This is how we're going. Now, let's explore a little bit more, and I'm going to get into a company that is working on blockchain technology. So it's got to be verifiable data, right? And so we're talking about a package of evidence of credentials. And let's talk about Actual. So Actual is this company that is actually working on blockchain technology for medical staff services. And if you attended NAMSS last year, they were a booth in the corner in the exhibit hall. Not a lot of people knew about them, and you're like, oh, okay, digital network of verified facts. I would highly recommend you go out and look at what they're doing, because they are looking at pulling together a digital credential wallet for our practitioners, right? And we're talking medical boards, medical schools, employers. We're talking NTIS, we're talking AMA, we're talking maybe even NPDB. They are putting together a platform of digital credentials. So from a query perspective, what's this going to look like, right? How is this going to interface with our credentialing softwares? This is a new startup company, and how's the relationship going to work with the holder being the practitioner, the subscriber being a health system or a health plan? So I am excited to say MedStar Health is entering into a relationship with Actual to actually test this product and how it's going to work. And we are going to be working with about 100 to 175 of our practitioners to really test this technology out. But not only do I have to understand it, I got to figure out how I'm going to receive the information and how I'm going to get it into my database, or is it going to integrate directly into my credentialing database? But this is a technology that, as MSPs of tomorrow, we need to be familiar with, because what we don't want to be is left behind. We want to be on the forefront. So when you think about what you should be focusing on this year, blockchain, it's going to change everything, but everybody's talking about it, right? The potential applications are endless. We don't want to be left behind. And what exactly is blockchain? And then, oh my God, here comes artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is already here, right? If you don't have a smartwatch on your wrist right now, do you have a Fitbit? All of that's artificial intelligence. And your cell phone, it's probably somewhere right on your desk, in your hand. It's not too far from you. And back when you were traveling to work every day, or if you still do, my smartphone is an artificial intelligence device, because every morning when I get in the car within 5 to 10 minutes of the same time, right, it tells me it's going to take you 7 minutes to get to work today. Or on the weekends, because I, travel to go, I don't know, let's just say across the Bay Bridge over to one of the beaches on the Chesapeake Bay, because I've done that repetitively. Now it tells me on a Saturday morning, It's going to take you 45 minutes to get to XYZ beach. Artificial intelligence. It is our world. And so when we talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, before we talk more about the digital workforce, we're going to look at how artificial intelligence works within a computer. And again, we're going to defer to the great movie of War Games. And Joshua's getting smarter.
What are those? Those are launch codes.
What are they for?
Joshua's trying to find the right code so he can launch the missiles himself.
Yeah, Paul, what's happening?
Check the random number generators. They're not even running. You got anything?
No, sir.
Keep going.
I'm still looking.
All right, look, I got no idea. It could be coming from anywhere.
Sir, you better get on the headset.
Yeah. Hey, General, the machine has locked us out. It's sending random numbers to the silos.
He's gonna hit the codes to launch the missiles.
Just unplug the goddamn thing.
Jesus Christ. That won't work, General.
It would interpret a shutdown as the destruction of NORAD. The computers in the silos would carry out their last instructions they'd launched.
Well, can we disarm the missiles?
Over 1,000 of them. There's no time. At this rate, it'll hit the launch codes in 5.3 minutes.
Mr. McKittrick, after very careful consideration, sir, I've come to the conclusion that your new defense system sucks.
I don't have to take that, you pig-eyed sack of shit.
No, I was hoping for something a little better than that from you, sir, a man of your education.
General, it's the president.
What are you going to tell him?
I'm ordering our bombers back to fail safe. We might have to go through this thing after all. Yes, sir.
Wow. If that doesn't scare you when we start thinking about a digital workforce and what our computers can do and what we can do with modern technology. And when we talk about artificial intelligence is after a series of events, it starts learning and continues to learn and continues to learn, and it gets smarter. Just like in the 80s, you know, Joshua was learning by a series of events that and I call it a he, the computer itself could figure out through a series of codes what the launch codes were going to be to actually go to war with Russia. So I bring that to the forethought of thinking about how's the digital workforce going to impact us? What does it look like? And again, there's a company out there already called Olive. Olive is your digital employee. It's AI technology. They call it a she, right? And the name's Olive. And they're specializing right now in healthcare. And here at MedStar Health, we have used Olive in our finance area. And she has already saved us over $1 million in just the way that she's been able to work and consolidate some of the work that we do with, the repetitive work that we do within the finance office. And it's my understanding that Olive works on like a BitBot technology. So what does she look like? How does she work? Well, she is a user just like you and I. And in the world of computers, nobody knows if there's a person on the other end. She gets a username and a password, right? And if you have a credentialing software that has defined workflows, she can work those. And because she works those workflows through artificial intelligence, she gets smarter. So then what happens is not only can she just launch out those primary source verifications, she can get it back in, and then she starts thinking about what if. And you have to start applying those what if conditions. So I feel by having this type of technology, she's going to become an employee who's able to review and import those electronic applications from our practitioners based on conditions that we apply. She will adhere to data standardization because that's the only thing she knows. So there will be no user error. She will be able to kick off workflows related to primary source verification. And eventually, she's going to be able to extract data from multiple databases and complete profiles based on the what if defined language for FPPE and OPPE. She can be a great employee because she works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. She has no behavioral issues, unless, of course, you know, the computers and how we love them. She never takes FML. She never takes PTO. So I encourage you, and this is not, again, a plug for Olive, right? I'm just telling you, this is out here. So as you are learning about what's going to happen in our future, you need to be checking out, you know, these types of services that are available, because I'm sure somebody in your finance department, somebody in your C-suite is already looking at this information. So you would much, you know, be at the forefront of what's going on. So, you know, when it comes to your department, or, you know, do you want to be proactive and make this part of your department needs for the upcoming year, especially as we're all looking at FTE resources, you know, what is the investment in something like Olive? So again, they talk about onboarding Olive and when you hire her, how she actually works. But with a digital employee, the company comes in, they look at your workflows, they train her alongside you, and then she learns to work autonomously, and she manages her own automated work routine. And then here's a little bit more about Olive and where they've been using her. They've been using her in benefit verification, prior authorization, denial and rejection. Again, part of this is all in the finance and revenue stream of your organization. Vendor contract management, right? A lot of us use an outside vendor to do contract management. And basically, it's a software system where we put the contract in, we manage dates and expirables. She can process invoices, she can do inventory management. So again, when you think about the future, think about what a digital employee looks like as they become an MSP. Tomorrow's MSP was tagged by NAMSS at last year's conference. I'm not going to go over a whole lot about this because I, you know, just want to make you guys aware that it is available out there for you to look at. So when we talk about the skill set for tomorrow's MSPs, it's mind-blowing when you see the cat, the crazy cat. The C drive is not a cup holder. Hello. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of funny. And when it comes to data analysis, Excel, you know, those are old computers. When we think about Excel, I mean, think about how long Excel has been around. And then we have our job description, and we really need to focus on what the job description looks like and how we're going to elevate the profession. What's going to be the education and training, experience, certifications, our knowledge, our skill sets. And I had the pleasure of doing an exercise like this with the Maryland Association back in November of last year. And we came up with some interesting titles and qualifications. You know, we talk about, you know, if our software is doing all the web crawls and, you know, the workflows are all automated, if we implement blockchain technology, what are we going to be spending our time on? And we talked about we're going to be doing more analytical type work. So they came up with some interesting titles like credentialing intelligence analyst, artificial intelligence analyst, data integrity information officer. And then in addition to being a CPCS or a CPMSM and having some type of educational requirement, you know, is there an IT certification for an MSP in our future? What's that going to look like? Is it needed? And then we talked about some of the knowledge and the skills. You you know, again, data analytics. We're gonna have to be tech savvy when it comes to computers. We're gonna have to know business intelligence, because it's gonna be all about getting the data out, not only at a system level, at an entity level, at a department level, at an employee level, and then managing everything through some type of business intelligence. I mean, we're doing dashboards now, right? But think about if we could automate those dashboards. It's going to be about the AI experience, cybersecurity, right? We've got to protect our data. And how are we going to protect it? Do we have a designated IT person on our team to help us protect our data? Then some of the softer skills that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation all come in with communication, collaboration, relationship building as it relates to teamwork and management, critical thinking, problem solving, project management, because a lot of what we do, if you think about every practitioner file that comes in, that file in and of itself can be its own project, right? Especially depending on how many years of experience that they have and how far back you go in your verification process. Again, detail-oriented goes back to analytical. We already talked about a multitasker, and you know, flexibility. Well, that's where we are right now, right? You know, we have to be 100% flexible to be able to survive in this world of COVID. Duties and responsibilities. What does that look like? We are living, even though we thought about in November when I put this together, I'm thinking, okay, this is the future, right? In some of this. But we're living it. It's almost like it's now. I mean, when you talk about oversight of data, presentation of the data, whether it be written, visual, or verbal, the whole analytical piece also applies to FPPE and OPBE. Onboarding. I'm sure during COVID, a lot of us had, you know, revitalized how we onboard practitioners through orientation with our IT departments, how we get them where they need to be, you know, redeploying practitioners from one entity to another. We're managing virtual meetings. We're managing telecommuting staff. Some of you in the midst of all this, I've even heard we're implementing new technology and new software. And if you didn't have a telehealth platform, you probably do now, right? So a whole lot of what we have to do and what you are managing on a day-to-day. I would say back in November, October, November, when we were talking about the MSP of tomorrow, now it's the MSP of today, right? So when you look about where do you fit in? Some recommendations that I have for you. Do a self-check, right? Complete a self-assessment. Where are you in the profession? Where do you see yourself in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? Are you going to be retiring? Are you young in the profession, and where do you want to be? And what skills are you going to need? Like, are you really good on computers, but maybe you need some of the softer skills as it relates to teamwork, leadership? Or are you a leader who has the soft skills, but you know, maybe you're challenged with computers, and how are you going to get a handle on the technology piece? You need to know enough just to be dangerous, right? And then ask yourself a set of interview questions. So put yourself out there in your mind and say, okay, if I was to go on a job interview, what questions would I be asked? How would I answer those? And be honest with yourself, be real. I mean, you're having a conversation with yourself, and you know, I've done that. It's a scary place to be sometimes, to the point to where I have literally been on a walk completely and totally checked out and came face to face with a car because I was living in my own world doing exactly that, completing a self-assessment, doing some self-reflection. Create a 3 to 5 year plan. Commit to it. Write it down. Obtain a mentor or a coach. We talked about collaboration at the beginning. Talk to another colleague. If you're not comfortable with something in like technology, maybe you reach out to that person and say, hey, you know, I need some help here. You know, what do I need to do? Do a gut check with that mentor or coach. And then I always say, stretch yourself, right? As MSPs, we know what we do. We know how to do our job. So stretch yourself. Think outside the box. Get creative. I would like to say express yourself. And this is an opportunity for you to express yourself and really design something that is going to be life-changing for yourself. And I like the little graphic here because as we've all converted over to a virtual world, I love this bingo game, right? And then, you know, if you get the whole card filled up, then of course be the first one to shout bingo, right? But this is where we are. Hi, who just joined? Next slide, please. Barb allowed me to control my own slide, so I wouldn't have to say that every time. Putting everybody on mute during virtual meetings, right? You're having virtual meetings and everybody's trying to overtalk one another. And then everybody letting you know, well, I have a hard stop because I got another meeting, right? We all do this. So the MSP of tomorrow is today, right? Telecommuting, managing the telecommuting, virtual meetings, virtual education, virtual onboardings, virtual surveys, virtual NCQA audits, and then all this new software. I am not an expert in Zoom. I am not an expert in WebEx. I'm not an expert in Microsoft Teams, but I have to use all three platforms. And each one functions a little bit differently. And depending on where I'm at, right? If I'm here in my corporate office, it works one way. If I'm from home and I'm telecommuting, it works a completely and totally different way. So you have to be knowledgeable. So go out, learn these programs so that you know how to use them. And then again, this is the MSP we don't want to be. We don't want to be the person who's telecommuting, who's rolling out of bed, putting a hat on, cover our bad hair. You know, we got our coffee stains, we got slippers, socks with holes, or excuse me, I think those are socks with holes in them. You know, cold brew or a wine in a glass while you're at home working in the evenings. You know, this is not who we want to be. We are professionals and we want to be seen as professionals because tomorrow's MSP is you. You are the future. And I end every presentation, as you know, I try to inspire others about the profession that I'm so passionate about. Take the chair, sit at the forefront of your dreams. You are the chairperson at the center of your affairs. Make it memorable, make an impact, and leave a legacy. So Barb, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to the Michigan Association for hosting this webinar. And at this time, I think I left just 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, you did great. Thank you so much, Melissa, for an outstanding presentation. And we do have a couple of questions. Boy, when you started talking about blockchain, the questions started rolling in. So the one question that we had that I've not heard this question before, so it was a really good one. How is blockchain different than the CAQH database?
The way I understand it to be different is the way blockchain that we are entering into an agreement here with MedStar Health is it's going to take the data and it's going to verify it. The CAQH information is just that. It's practitioner entered information, but it's not primary source verified.
Okay, very good. Another question about blockchain. Is it accepted by the Joint Commission and NCQA as primary source verification?
You know, very good question. And yes, you know why? Because again, I'm still new at this, but the way I heard it explained to me is because the primary source verification is still coming from the issuer. It's the technology to get it is irrelevant as long as the verification is coming from the issuer. So if you think about your credentialing software, and I'll just, you know, the software that I have has a button that says verify now. So if I hit that verify now button, the technology, right, goes out, obtains that query, brings it into my system. Blockchain is just bundling all of those verifications into one, and then is going to deliver it to me. But the issuer is going to be the one that's actually on the verification that I receive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, we had another participant actually weigh in and say that NCQA will accept the blockchain as long as review of the verifications are documented, and that the contract with the company is available for review, and the contract stipulates that the system queries the primary sources directly and not from another party or data set. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, right in line with your comments, Melissa. So it looks like we've answered all the questions, so thank you very much. I wanted to thank everyone for attending today. Be sure to look out for an email from the Hardenbergh group in the next day or two with a link for the survey. You may also want to check your spam or your junk folder, because sometimes those emails slide into there. For those who desire to have NAMSS-approved continuing education credits, the survey needs to be completed because we need your name as you wish it to appear on the survey and an email address where you'd like your certificate sent. So with that, I'd like to wish you a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.